Okay, hi everyone. A couple of weeks ago, I asked Alay to give me an interview, and he agreed surprisingly, despite his extremely high workload because of the upcoming public launch of Shoreline. So please meet Alay Desai, the founding product manager of Shoreline, the next generation of the DevOps software. And Alay, thank you very much once again for coming. What I wanted to ask you first, it's about your title. This word founding, it's not the common thing. I Googled it a bit, and it's about 15 millions of product managers in LinkedIn, and only 200 founding product managers in LinkedIn. So could you please describe a bit what does it mean in your case?
Yeah, so founding product managers are those early employees, those early PMs who join the company when the idea is still on the drawing board. There is a definition saying, okay, this is what, and this is the area where we want to build something, but then you haven't really figured out what exactly you are building, and sometimes even the product strategy is out there. So, like, why are you building something? And so that's the role of a founding PM, to come in and address those issues and help company on the right track, saying, okay, this is the product that we are building, and here's the reason why we are building, and here's the product roadmap. Founding PMs are important from the perspective that many times there might be a great technology, but the classic case is, okay, it's looking for a solution. You have a technology, but you're looking for a solution. A product manager is not going to necessarily create some need out of thin air and make it as a solution. But a product manager can help you identify markets and customer needs, and pinpoint and help you prioritize across those, and pinpoint the features and functionality that you need to develop and why you should. And the reasoning is always there, saying why you should develop. Mm-hmm. So typically, the founding PMs are the first PMs in the company, because as a first PM, that will be your job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. And so you are in the Shoreline from the very beginning. And my question is, who and how did come to this idea of the Shoreline? And could you describe the idea first of all, of course? Yeah, because we need to do this.
Oh, yeah.
And then how did you come to this idea?
Okay. So Shoreline is a DevOps company which uses automated remediation to improve availability and reduce labor for your day two ops. And we can discuss a little bit more in details about what I mean by that. But in essence, Shoreline was formed to make lives of service operators easy. So if you are an operator of a service, and in a classic service, operations, what you do is you ticket, or you create these tickets or alarms on an instance by instance basis rather than fleet-wide basis. It becomes very challenging because you'll be getting a lot of pages or tickets, right? They will be created, and if that happens, what you end up doing is you end up getting into what's classically called the ticket hell. You're churning through ticket after doing the same grunt work, doing the same stuff. I mean, problem is understood, the run book is developed, the steps are defined, but you're doing the same stuff again and again, waking up in the middle of the night, skipping your kids, ballet or some talent show, or even sometimes, as many of the Bay Area SREs or operators will tell you, pulling over on a busy highway to address a service call because a page had just been received and a ticket has been issued. So that's the problem. And in fact, the bigger issue is, if your service is growing 50, 100% year over year, it only gets worse. So the only way as an operator to get out of this is you have to build a solution which will automatically fix an issue when it happens. That's called automatic remediation, and Shoreline does that. The challenge around automatic remediation is nowadays or currently, it's actually another coding exercise. You start writing code and maintaining it and everything. So it's like a long cycle and a big effort. as an operator, as what we call SREs, DevOps, the service reliability engineers, as the operators of the service, you want to get out of the ticket hellhole, but you don't want to get into another one of coding and that whole aspect of it. You want to leverage everything that you are familiar with. Operators are much familiar with shell scripts, SSH, telnet into a machine, run directly your Linux commands or any operating system commands, etc. That's an SRE world. And so Shoreline allows an operator to do just that, leverage things that they already know and fix issues as they automatically happen. So the idea for Shoreline came from our experience at AWS while we were running large services for AWS. So Anurag Gupta, who is the founder of the company, used to run many services like RDS, the relational database service, Redshift, the analytics service, EMR, Elastic MapReduce service, Athena, Glue, which is the ETL. So I was part of S3 initially, and then bunch of the data services. I worked across a bunch of data services that Anurag operated. Charles Carey, who was the first engineer at Shoreline and is now the CTO here, he was an early engineer on DynamoDB. Adnan Dosani, another guy here, another engineer, he used to work on Glue in the early days. So many of us come from AWS, where we experience what it means to run a large-scale service, and so that's where the idea germinated from. Saying, why can't we just do it for the rest of the world? Customers who also run services. The original intent still remains the same. So we've been focused on improving service availability and reducing the grunt work from the beginning. So, and that still remains.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sounds fascinating, and it looks like. So my question is, why? How did you know? How did you know in the beginning that it's doable? Like it's really game changing things you are going to do. You did already, but how did you know in the beginning? From your experience, what was the root of your experience here?
Yeah. So I mean, as I said, the early team comes in with a lot of experience, so to speak, in building and operating services. Definitely, Shoreline is doing things which are very unique in terms of it's building a platform to automatically remediate it. So in essence, when you consider there's a lot of technical challenges that you need to surmount to do it. If you need to do fleet-wide operations, instead of having to SSH into each individual machine, which an operator needs to do today, you can just issue one single command in Shoreline, which will go, run those commands across the fleet in a fault-tolerant manner. Shoreline takes care of everything and gives you back the result and things like that. So things that we do, they're not easy. It's when we started building it, we knew about how to go about building it. It's because it's basically a distributed system. We all come from background of building large-scale distributed systems. Anurag, Charles. So we know in general how to build it. And then there were many problems where we did go into looking into aspects and researching issues as to how to solve that technical problem. So, for example, we can compress data and not have as good a fidelity as the original data, and we can compress it 40 times. That allows us to do things which are very unique in the platform. So we built a lot of IP there, and we continue to do that even today. And when you start building on, taking on a project of this scale, you have a confidence saying, okay, you know how to do it, but the pieces get discovered and built out as you go along. So,
okay, thank you. And did you change the original idea or not? Like it was how many times? Years ago, 2 years ago, I guess. And so it was like the original plan, and now you have the product. You're about public launch. What have changed here in the project.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, not much has changed. The core idea that we started for Shoreline was to say we need to automatically fix issues when they happen. That auto remediation aspect was the core idea that we wanted to do, because that's the pain that operators feel today. That core idea still remains, and that hasn't changed. There are lots of other things that we have thought about as to what all we want to do and how Shoreline can, in fact, make lives of our operators even better. Those, they will be built out over time. But yeah, we haven't changed as much from that original goal post that we fixed things. We want to make a difference by automatically fixing things. And then, again, the platform not only fixes things, you can fix things once you know that, okay, this is what happened. So it's a known entity, right? But when you don't know and something is brand new, you need to be able to interactively debug it. So yeah, the platform supports that also. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's switch to the question I wanted to ask you for a long time, but didn't do this. How did you manage to fundraise over $20 million? What's the so it's not it's something unique from my experience, at least, that you don't have MVP launched and you raised just for no idea such a big amount of money. Why and how did you do this?
Yeah, I mean, I cannot speak for our investors and what decision process they follow to invest, right? So
yeah, of course.
But I mean, in general, I can talk about it. It's like for any early stage company when you don't have a product or even customers, and sometimes there is even an established market, right? That's the classic definition of early stage, something which you don't know. There are certain aspects or certain parameters that form your decision making framework if you are an investor. From what what I believe, the first and foremost at that time, which is most tangible, is the team, right? Do you think this is the team that can execute on whatever the idea is and build a company around it? Anurag is a very well-known entity in the business. He used to run database and analytics services at AWS for 8 years. Before that, he had done a couple of other companies too, very successful, with successful exits. He's a very well-known and well-respected person in the industry, in the tech industry. And so, and then each one of us also comes with very unique backgrounds, having done quite a few things ourselves. So the team is in some sense the key aspect or a very tangible thing when you are making a decision of investing in an early stage company. The second is how identifiable or verifiable is the customer need? Is there really a need for whatever you are proposing? And if you can identify or verify it, that makes a big difference. And that's one of the things you should be able to do no matter how early stage the company. The need always remains. Whether a product or a service is there to satisfy that need or not is a different story, which is hopefully what you're proposing. But the VC or the investor should be able to identify, at least verify that customer need. The third is whatever IP is being proposed to, which would be required to build this product or a service or a solution that addresses the customer need. Having some kind of an estimation of that, right? Is there? That's the classic thing, what you call secret sauce, right? Which is, what is the secret sauce? Why only you, or why this thing? And in essence, how defensible is it? Can someone copy it? That would be the third parameter. And most early stage VCs, in my experience, they have an investment thesis. They have a view of the world. They have a space or a domain that they typically invest in and have a lot more depth and knowledge around it. And they have an investment thesis around it. And whatever you are proposing, if it has an alignment with that investment thesis, it makes it much more easier for them because they already know the space, they already know the customers and the market and the players and everything. And so when you have these four things, the team, the customer need, IP, and a defensible IP, and alignment with the investment thesis, it's easy for an investor to make a call on saying, do I want to invest in this early stage company or not? And so that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you. Very detailed answer and connected answer to the question to this. So you developed in Shoreline more than 1 year before start the beta, and it's not like the textbook approach to building startup, because what I mostly hear is that you need to build very simple MVP, just very fast, I don't know, in 1 month, and go and try to sell it. And you spent a lot of time and resources to do this. I mean, to launch the MVP. And so it's really something unique for me as well. How did you come to this kind of workflow? Why didn't you try to, I don't know, sell your product on the presentation, I don't know, without any demonstration of your ideas in real life?
Yeah, so, I believe the path any company takes, from germination or the idea conception to launching the product, it will be very unique, and it depends on that company. So it depends on that situation it is in. What's the product? What's the market? What's the customer? How do they buy? Who are the players, etc. Right? For us, there are a few things which sets us apart. First is, of course, we all come with lots of experience having built large scale and enterprise grade products and services. So we understand the rigor and we understand the mentality that is required to build a product like that. Shoreline, Shoreline is building a platform to automatically remediate issues when they happen. And the same platform has to also help operators interactively debug an issue across their fleet. When you have basically your house on fire, right? Mm-hmm. When an incident is happening, should be able to help the operators figure out, saying, okay, what exactly is happening? Why is this happening? And then run commands or take actions to fix that issue. And you got to do it in a production environment, which basically means there is a customer impact. So customers of Shoreline, they have their own customers and it would impact them. So when you consider the combination of the technical challenges that are required to build a platform such as this, which needs to remediate and do interactive fleet-wide debugging, etc., and you couple that with, it's got to do it in a production environment. It requires a whole level of rigor that is required. It requires a whole level of stability. It requires a very different approach and a mentality to building that. And so that's what we did. We have been very deliberate in how we build the product and how we build the company. And we've been very much focused on the customer aspect of it, because at the end of the day, if you don't have customers, then the company or the product don't matter. And for us, those are customers are the true north. So,
okay, thank you. Sounds profound. And let's talk about your team. You have 3 teams. Regarding software development, you have 3 teams. One backend team in San Francisco, API team in Romania, and UI team, Aspirity here in Russia. And how do you manage all these teams? And why? Okay, let's start from this. How do you manage this? 3 teams in different time zones.
So I'll separate out the time zone challenge versus the management aspect of it. Philosophically, we operate as a single team. This is like one single company, so to speak. And so there is no difference or layering built into how our teams work across different continents. In essence, what we think about is from a very different perspective, which is we have a set of team values. That's a culture that we want to bring into Shoreline. And one aspect of that team is basically we have a very high bar of accepting someone, in that sense. So that same high bar also then leads to the same level of expectation that we have once the person joins the Shoreline family, and it doesn't matter where they are or what they do. And so our processes, which are also embedded in our culture, they are built without any geography-based distinctions in mind. We think about doing certain things the same way, no matter where you are, using the same tools, and no matter what you where you are. And so the tools, the application, the people, the process, everything has to be the same, and it doesn't matter where you are. So that's the geographic. I mean, that's the aspect, philosophical and cultural aspect of how we operate across multiple continents. The second aspect about the time challenges of managing across this thing is, it's definitely there, and but it becomes easy when you think about when it's the same team and you want to operate it as a same team and you want to make sure that everything works like that. Then that's a challenge you accept, and you work across different time zones. It doesn't matter. So late night calls, if they are required because that's your team, then they are required and you do it, right? And so.
Okay. Yeah. And the product manager from our side in your team asked me to ask you when do you sleep, because she looks here. It's 2 a.m. in San Francisco. You have call with team, so it's something extraordinary ordinary for me. I don't know how you manage with this.
Sleep is a challenge, but I say I'll sleep when I'm done with my life. So I'll have a lot of time to sleep then. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and you, as I said, you raised a big amount of money, and you could choose whatever developers in the world you want. I mean, like you have these possibilities, but why did you choose like this particular team? Why front-end team in Russia? Why API team in Romania? So I understood that it's not about geographical choice, but maybe something else. Could you please share?
I mean, I think it was more driven by the desire to find the right talent. And so, I mean, from the beginning, we knew that what we were trying to build here was special, and for that, it requires us to really expand our geographic area of operations, so to speak, across the world, and find the best talent no matter where they are, and then figure out a way to get the best talent to work on the challenges that we have and build the product. And so that was the motivation from day one. As I said, just a few minutes back, we have a very high bar that of acceptance, so to speak. That just means that you need to expand your horizons and area. So when we started looking at front end specifically, we looked at across multiple teams or multiple companies that provide front end services across different continents, to Europe as well as Asia and Russia. We ended up selecting with Asperity because it was primarily the expertise of the people. When we talked to Asperity, we felt that, okay, you had the right set of combinations from the people perspective, the technical skills, the culture, the attitude, the passion. We had like 15 criteria that we wanted to look for in terms of our partner. And so Asperity came, very high on those. And so from that perspective, we ended up, and that's why it was no problem thinking, okay, fine, they're in Russia, that's Russia, but we just build it out with them.
Okay, thank you. And when you decided to, it was your goal to hire the offshore development team, or did you expect to maybe hire developers internally as well? So what was the plan?
Uh, so there are different. I mean, so on the front end side, we use React as our primary platform, and so from that perspective, when we started talking to Asperity, the idea was to find expertise in building front ends, different kinds of front end. We wanted to build front end, across different platforms and form factors, etc. And so we needed that broad area of expertise, which also blended design as well as engineering aspects of it. So that was also quite important for us to get that done together. And so the idea was not as to, okay, do we want employees versus contractors? The idea was to more find the right talent per se.
Okay, get it. And but some of the resources you keep internally, like backend, for example, and some of the resources you're trying to hire from vendor. So why? Is it any explanation for this? Like why backend internally and front end from vendor?
No, I mean our backend uses certain kinds of technology where an expertise is generally not available in that sense, and so there is no particular rationale to saying, okay, this has to be done in-house versus that can be outsourced kind of a thing. It is primarily just driven by saying, okay, do we know if there is a resource out there which can do the job that we want to get done? And it doesn't matter whether it's an employee or a contractor, insourced or outsourced. So there is no rationale per se. But building large-scale distributed systems are not easy. And if you are trying to build that, it requires a very specific kind of expertise that a person must have, that the developer must have worked on before. And so, and there are not that many contractors or outsourcers who specialize in building large-scale distributed systems on internet scale in the cloud. So,
okay, thank you. Now it's clear for me. And you mentioned React, that it was like it was your decision to choose React, but why did you choose React for front end? Why not Vue, Angular, whatever?
Yeah, I mean, so I think Shoreline as a company, we are singularly focused on customers. Everything that we do, whether it's identifying which feature to build, to any platform or technologies and how we build, it's always in the context of customer. Customer comes first for us. So in essence, when we started looking at Shoreline as a whole, we were investing a lot in building the right set of features and functionality and the technologies and the challenges that we had around the platform to monitor a resource in real time, identify an issue with that resource, and then fix it again in real time, right? And so the idea there is that, hey, if you can fix an issue in real time, then it's just a blip on a radar. It's not a big incidence with customer impact. So that premise around having everything to be highly optimized, highly scalable, and in real time leads you to a very different set of a challenge, which is backend is doing that. So the front end needs to be capable of building that. So it has to be highly performant. It should be able to just match the capabilities of the backend and get everything done. At the same time, we also wanted to make sure that Shoreline is available on any kind of a platform, no matter what kind of operating system or the underlying platform that you use for your computer or your device. It's available on different device and form factors and everything. So we needed like a modern UI library, which is highly performant, which is extensible, widely used, and easy to maintain or manage. And so React checked a lot of those check marks for us. And as a result, we ended up selecting React.
Okay, thank you. Sounds reasonable. Okay. And I have a couple more questions. So what lessons have you learned from the point where Shoreline was a raw idea to the real product development? Could you please Tell me.
We still learn. We learn every day. I mean, our customers provide us feedback every day on what they appreciate in the product, what their needs are, that we need to address further. Things which will make our product very usable. So we are constantly learning. Building a platform product is challenging in general. Building a platform is challenging, right? And Shoreline is no different. You are always figuring out, okay, how the prioritization happens. Let me balance between the speed with which I can get something in the hands of the customer, the functionality, building the right set of features and functionality that addresses the need and those challenges. And in fact, as we were building Shoreline, of course, pandemic hit, and so learning to operate in pandemic. There are quite a few things that that taught us how to do things and how to do it better. Customers for us, as I said, are true north, and so when they give us feedback, they also raise the bar for us in our product all the time, and that's the best thing that I like. So there are lots of lessons learned, largely in the context of customers, and we continue to do that every day.
Okay, and maybe you can share something from product's perspective. I mean, some features you expected will be very popular and useful, and they are not when it comes to customer experience. So maybe something like this.
I mean, the classic thing which I think people generally forget is auditing aspect of things. When you're building an enterprise software, and specifically if you're building something which is around service availability and production environments, you need to build a very robust auditing capabilities. You need to understand what happened, why it happened, when it happened, what was the outcome of it, what was the context around it which happened, who did it. And then it's like in Shoreline's case, it's even more interesting, right? Because it's like, hey, this machine came up. Why? Like, did Alay bring it up, or was it Shoreline automatically bringing it up to address an issue? Like, how did it happen? Like, who did it? And things. So, in essence, a lot of times software gets built without thinking through like this kind of an capability, and auditing is a classic feature that I always point out, which is it's one of those things which makes a big difference. I mean, a very interesting thing is that explainability part of it, right? At times also nowadays you see that in ML algorithms, one big thing is not only, okay, when did ML algorithm happen, or what actions did it take, but why, what happened, why did it take that? Like, give me the result, like what made it say, this is the confidence interval, this is why this action is true, this is the why, and I'd say this is the root cause for it if it's ML driven. So that explainability part of it is also very interesting. And so, we, as I said, we have been very much focused on that customer problem and solving their needs. So, and we definitely don't want them to go from one solved need to which creates another unsolved need. So,
yeah. Okay. Thank you. The last question from our side, I guess, about your long-term vision for Shoreline growth. So, what is your plan? What are the plans?
Long-term vision. Shoreline is just starting its journey. I mean, we are just we've been around for long, but we are just starting our journey in that sense. Currently, address a small part where which basically is for operators that need help in operating their service and keeping it up and running and available, right? DevOps in general is a very big space, and we operate in a small part of it. There are many areas in DevOps where if you have a product or a platform that codifies the best practices for that particular area, it would definitely impact the operator pain and reduce it significantly. And just as we do in Shoreline, which is not only it reduces the operator pain, but it also improves all the business metrics, such as your availability of service goes up, your revenues potentially should go up, your customer satisfaction should go up if the service is available. Because it's a classic case. Doesn't matter what features or functionality your service has if it's not up and running. If it's not reliable, it doesn't matter how many bells and whistles you have on your service. And so, from that perspective, we are just addressing a small piece, and there's a big area there in DevOps where a very similar way or approach to address operator pain, it just opens up many doors for you. So,
okay, thank you. Sounds promising. So that's it from my side. Thank you very much, Alay. Once again, I really appreciate your help, and I wish you all the best with the upcoming public launch. I hope it will be perfect. So if you have anything to share, you can do this right now. If not, we can end at this point.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure, and it's a pleasure talking to you, and it has been a pleasure working with Aspirity. So, looking forward to the launch together.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thanks.